I have a extraordinarily strange series of events to explain to you. So, I better start right from the beginning. This is one of those things where I've always wanted to get a hold of something like this and see this in person. And now that it's actually happened, I don't even know what to think. Because just the story is so ridiculous that it's not ridiculous enough to say, oh, it's not real, but it's ridiculous enough to definitely make it one of the more memorable antique hunting experiences. It all starts with my local auction house and me perusing the clock listings for anything interesting, right? And this is exactly what we ended up coming across among the clock listings. This is a swimming pool pace clock. Am I building my own pool? Well, not yet. This tells more of a story than meets the eye. And it's actually by flipping it around that you begin to understand what's really going on here. And after I saw that, I immediately knew, okay, I have to home in on this. It's something absolutely bizarre that I just have to get a hold of. If oh man. And get a hold of it I did. This was a whole $7 Canadian for this. I think there may have been one other person who spotted this, and who knows what the intentions were, but I outbid them. Again, a whole $7 Canadian for this thing. For this probably mid-1970s or mid-60s custom-made pool clock. And what a bizarre thing this truly is. To get this home, I almost had to go rent a van, but the guys at the auction house decided, nope, we're just gonna shrink wrap it to the top of the vehicle and drive home like that. I was thinking as I was going down the road with this strapped to the top of the car, or strapped to the top of the SUV, I'm thinking that this is the craziest thing I have done yet. This is the craziest bonkers thing that I have gotten yet. This is absolutely the number one most bizarre thing I have come home with. And for the most amazing price you could ever imagine. Oh man. No antique store will give you something like this for $7. I'm surprised they didn't just throw this thing out upon seeing it. But I am the I am the victor. This is mine now. Oh my gosh. I'd love to know the story behind this. I can't tell you what that is. I'm still trying to find out that story for myself. All we really have as far as clues as to what's going on here is that there, A.A. Figer. Don't know what that means. That could be somebody's name. I don't think that's a pool name, although it would make sense if it was. I'm looking for that name in the local pool scene, I guess, in my city. If any pools were named that at any point, or if there was anyone involved with that name, I have no idea. That guy may have built the clock. Who knows if that's even a name at all? You know, that could literally be anything. But this is custom made. It's about it's 52 inches by 48, so it's about 4 feet by 4 feet. Just about, not quite. And it's just absolutely massive. Yeah, and there's a hook in the top there for it to be hung up, which I assume that's how it was originally set up at the pool. Now, you're probably asking, why didn't the pool, whoever wanted this, why didn't they just go buy a new pool clock? Why did they build one? Well, somebody there was skilled enough, probably a janitorial member or who the heck knows you know, so one of the maintenance guys had some very interesting things lying around in his garage. I don't know if the lumber would have been lying around. He probably had to go buy that brand new. But he did have something of great interest to me lying around. Something that in his day would have been absolutely worthless for or to a lot of different people. And many of them were just thrown out or scrapped or, you know, all of the above, disposed of. You know, no one wants these things. But surely enough, you know, and this was one of them. This was one of the ones that it was decided that it was not worth having around in its original state since the need for a pool clock had arisen. And maybe he bought one off his friend, or maybe he just had one in his garage, or who the heck knows. But anyway, the clock I am referring to here, actually maybe I should look at the hands first before I even do the big reveal. There's one hand, and there's the other. These guys have old drill bits glued to the... There was one here, but it's gone now. They have old drill bits glued to the back as counterweights. I don't know where these hands came from. That is literally anyone's guess. I doubt he made them himself, though. I very highly doubt that. He must have ordered them from somewhere. As for our clock movement, though, that's the special part. And for those of you who've watched my channel or just know about these things, you'll know exactly what's going on here. This thing is powered, or was powered, by an original Canadian neon ray advertising clock, aka, if you're in the United States, a PAM advertising clock. This one was very obviously, you know, not wanted anymore for its original task, so it was converted into that. And I'm assuming this was chosen due to the way, due to this movement here, which we'll talk a lot about, you know, because it can drive the bigger hands. It can drive advertising hands. And I mean, these are huge. Those are definitely not the original hands. The original shaft or the original bushing or whatever you want to call it. This is off one of the original hands. That right there. So we're going to be reclaiming that in our service here. Oh, I haven't even said what the game plan is here. We are not putting this back on there. This is far too valuable to go back onto there. I don't know what the future of this is going to be, but it will not be powered by an advertising clock. I am going to put that advertising clock, that PAM or neon ray, we're going to put this back to how it should be. We're going to get a new dial for it, along with a new bezel and new glass, and some new hands as well. Even if they're not quite perfect matches, we'll get there when we get there. But yes, we're going to save this. Like I said, this is far too valuable to be on there in this day and age. I don't know where this spent its life. There's basically no rust on the case or movement. And for those of you who are probably already scratching your heads, they left the light bulbs in here. Yes, I kid you not. That is a solid piece of wood. There is literally no way any light could shine through that. Oh, and this was screwed to the wood, by the way. That's why it's just floating around in there. It was mounted by those holes there, and there's one of the screws is still in there. Oh, yes. Yep. The wiring's all funny. For some reason, we've decided to isolate the two circuits here. We've taken our clock, we've given that its own cord, and they didn't want to destroy the lighting circuit, so they just isolated that and made it. And there's two cords coming out of this thing now. Oh, man. Are these heads? Oh, check that out. We might be able to reuse that. We're going to find out here if they're not. Oh, that's toasted. Yeah, that's smoked. But that there might be, well, I don't know. It's been painted, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, guys. But yeah, this is the treasured neon ray clock. And I'm surprised no one else spotted this. I think these clocks attract a clientele that usually will not be this observant. Not to talk low of car collectors and that whole, gas and oil and all that whole scene there. Maybe if someone did spot this, they decided it wasn't worth the effort. But I don't think a lot of people know about this whole thing right here. I don't think this is a concept that a lot of people know about. And if they do, they know it by the PAM name and not the Neon Ray name here. But even then, I mean, you have to know these things well enough just by looking at the back and saying, oh, that's a PAM clock just from the back there. Well, I mean, if you don't know that, like, you're never going to figure that out. You're never going to guess there's light bulbs back here or anything like that. That tape is original, by the way. I didn't put that on there. That is with this. Oh, yes. We're missing pieces here, but there's enough of it here where we can bring it back to life. And the most interesting part of this whole little conundrum is our motor here. This is I have to actually go back and find the name. But I have but I didn't do it alone. We have made another discovery as to what types of motors these clocks use. I was looking at this when I got it home the first time. I had one of these covers, moved up, and I was looking at the motor, and I'm thinking, is that the original motor for this clock? Is that the original PAM motor? It's not an Ingram. And I guess this isn't a PAM clock, so, who knows what PAMs we're using, but, is this an original neon ray motor? Would they have put this in here? And I got the VACC's opinion, the Vintage Alarm Clock Club YouTube channel. I showed this to him, and he said, that's a Smith's movement there. I can't remember what the name of it was, but that gear train, that whole front piece, this is a Smith's movement here. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have bought something that does not have the original motor in it. I mean, it was a gamble to begin with, I know, because it was already heavily modified, but I bought a PAM, let's call it a PAM. I bought a shell, basically. I bought the shell, and I can't use this. Or maybe I can, but, it's going to be a long shot if I can. This has the wrong movement in it. And I have to admit, I was devastated. As cool as this is, I was hoping beyond hope that motor would be the original motor that came with it, or at least the right type that came with it, so we can use it for its intended purpose and get, some proper PAM hands on this thing. So I'm looking around YouTube. I'm considering quartzifying this. I'm considering, all kinds of weird things. Going on eBay and looking for electric clock motors is it's a weird little wonderland of nightmares, and maybe you'll strike gold. Actually, let me rephrase that. It's like prospecting for gold, trying to find the right motor for your clock. If you need a replacement motor for your electric clock, going on eBay and looking for it is just chaos. You will find so many anonymous, strange movements that, seemingly belong to nowhere, and you wonder why they're even apart from their cases to begin with. I wound up on, eventually, after this sea of brass and steel, I wound up on the Curiosity Incorporated YouTube channel, who's another Canadian YouTuber who does stuff with antiques. Now, he was replacing a dial for one of his parts neon ray clocks, and or at least I think they were neon ray. He said they were PAM in the video, so maybe he actually has some of the PAM ones, but in any case, they're both the same thing with 2 different names. So he's replacing a dial for one in one of his videos, and he bought one off of eBay by this guy who makes reproduction dials. That's the route I'm going to take here. But anyway, you know, I'm just seeing his video. I've seen his video like probably 100 times now, because it's one of the only videos on YouTube about these clocks in general that's more than just a showcase of the thing being on. I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking, is there an off chance, you know, maybe because he's got a whole box of these things, maybe he'll show a clock with this motor in it, and maybe, just maybe, this will be the real deal. Because I'm thinking is like, how can this be the wrong motor? Because look where it is. I mean, you know, it may be Smith's, but we're in Canada. I mean, look at the shaft. Look at the hand setting shaft that this thing has. It was clearly in some type of advertising clock, or at least a case that needed a long setting shaft here. And of course, you push this down and turn it, and you can set the hands. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe this is somehow it. Surely enough, while he's got a clock in the foreground and he's doing something with it, in the background, there's another one of these neon ray clocks with no dial. And you can just see, just in the background, this movement sitting up like that. Like the camera was like this. And you can just see in the background, it's exactly the same. And I'm thinking, oh yes, this is the right motor for this. That neon ray, like we discovered 2 things here. Not only can we do what we were going to do originally, but neon ray was using Smith's movements for their clocks. How bizarre is that? They must have had all kinds of connections in Eastern Canada, because like, actually, where does it say these are made? Does it say these are made in Toronto? Let's see. I know I'm being very rough with it. Where are these things made? Oh my, wait a minute. Canadian Neon Ray, Columbia. Yeah, okay, there we go. That's why. Sorry. It took me a while. I'm looking in the sea of text. Montreal. There we go. That's why. They decided to get Smiths on the party here and enlist their help for movements. And that's exactly what happened here. They struck a deal of some kind to build 120 volt movements for the export market. So there we are. Unless that's a Smith's copy, but I doubt it. I think that's probably a real Smith's movement in there. So I'm thinking, oh yes, I've got the right movement, and I've come to this massive revelation: the neon ray clocks are using Smith movements. Terrific. Okay, awesome. We're set. There's enough of this here now where, you know, we can revive this. We can bring this back to life as is. We've got half of one. We've got over half. We've got like, what, 70% of the clock is here. We're just missing the support bracket for this thing. You know, I mean, if you watched my other neon ray clock service, that one had an Ingram movement, but it's the same idea where you've got that panel there, and you've got holes in that panel, and the movement fits onto that like this, and it, you know, supports it in place, and it, you know, you're all set. That's gone here because for some reason, well, I guess the way Smith's was using these was they were having, or some way, somehow, some why, they've got threaded holes. Those holes in the front of the movement there, that one and that one, those have screw threads in them. And I guess this guy was able to find screws that match that thread somehow. That might be a bit of a long shot as well, but I don't know where he got those screws from, because this movement would not have been mounted through the dial. The dial is made of glass on these. So I have no idea how he found screws that fit those threaded holes there. And again, why are those holes threaded in this? I have no idea. I don't even think Smith's did that with theirs. I don't even think they put their dials on and put screws on the front of the dial like that. So those holes are a total mystery to me. And the VACC showed me some pictures of his own movements where they're made of, I think this one's nickel-plated brass, but his are just, solid brass, and surely enough, it's the same exact setup as this. Oh man, yeah, I'm pumped to be holding one of these. Actually, and speaking of which, my guess was that this thing was an ad clock in the 50s and that this happened to it in probably the 60s or 70s or something like that. You know, once these things started becoming dated looking. And surely enough, right there, we can see actually a date, just like in the other one that I worked on. October 26th, 1950... That looks like 1953. I thought it was 59 earlier, but it might be 53. It's really hard to see that because it's just so faded. 59 maybe? I mean, either way, this would work. These have been around since the 40s, and it would make sense for them, you know, either way to be using Smith's movements. These movements were in production by Smiths during either, you know, that entire, I think the entirety of the 1950s, these were around. So there's enough of it here. We can do this. And I'm so thankful for, you know, the light bulbs being here. We could have replaced that, but it just would have made the whole thing more, you know, inconvenient to have these things missing. But they're here. And these bulbs are probably 50s light bulbs, actually. I didn't even bother checking them. Because when would this have last been lit? Oh, bingo. I didn't even look at these. Huh. We got some nice Westinghouse light bulb. These are, holy mackerel. Yeah, you know we're in. You know those are, these might even be original to this. Oh, one's Westinghouse and we have a GE. Cool. Shadow band, 15 watt. That's so sick. I do not have light bulbs that old. I have Christmas lights that old. I do not have just your standard, what is that, 15 watts? Yeah, 15 watts. This stuff I do not have, let alone by Westinghouse or General Electric. We're yet to test these to see if these even work. Yeah, those are 15 watts. Interesting. They can't be that bright. What is this thing rated for? I know I keep flipping it around. This is supposed to have 60 watt bulbs in it, right? Oh no, 15 watts. Okay, good thing I checked that. Yeah, 15 watt. Okay, so they went and found 15 watt light bulbs specifically for this, whoever last had it. Nice. Original lamps found. I mean, that's more than I can say for my other one, which can, you know, as much as I love it, the light bulbs were not as old as those. So this is the oldest ad clock I have. We're going to get it ship shape. Hopefully. This, I don't know what we're going to do with yet. Those hands are going to be staying with it. I'm going to get this piece off, though, because this belongs to that. And I don't know what the future holds for this thing. I think this is too important to just, you know, huck out or whatever. But, you know, that is too valuable for that. But this is still important. This is still cool, but it's not that. Again, you really have to know what you're looking at to even be able to distinguish, hey, that's behind there. Let me, you know, buy it just for that. I mean, these can be worth $200 to $300 in good condition. Of course, you know, it's the old story. It's worth whatever someone will pay for it. And I think that's probably the most accurate. That's the most accurate description at the end of the day for prices. But, oh, guys, I was so thrilled to get a hold of this and find out that, yes, that is the correct motor for this. That is the correct movement. We've worked on electric clocks before, and we can do it again. Well, if you've watched this channel, you'll know that I don't hesitate with these. I absolutely service them all the way. No hesitation. So, there it is. Whew. Let's get into it, shall we?